Clemson has won their last 3 games. They go into the Florida State game. A 14 to 16 point favorite, according to what time you check the line. And the schedule is not that hard. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Clemson seems to be trending up. What are the keys for them to be a real playoff team? Are they a real playoff team? I know everybody's talking it over, talking about it, mulling it over. Dan Mullen, that's his little segment. But I'm going to talk about, are they for real, and the keys for them to actually be for real. But first, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. I am Brian, your humble host. Anyone who tells you they are humble, they are not. I'm just joking in this scenario, but I'm glad you're here. I don't know what it is. Every time I start a video, this has been going on for a while. Maybe it's nerves. My nose starts itching, and I feel ridiculous. I feel like it's the night at the Roxbury Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell. I'm like, want to dance, want to dance. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. If you like college football, you like Clemson football, but you also like college football, you like arguing about it, this is your place. If you like what I'm doing, I hope you will subscribe. Remember, it is free. As Clemson goes into this game against Florida State, it is a totally different vibe, feel, whatever word you want to use there. Clemson and Florida State was supposed to be the competition that would determine the ACC championship. Potentially, who would represent the conference in the 12-team playoff. And that's not the case for at least one of those teams. The team that went into the transfer portal, and it worked for them last year. It did. You can say it didn't, but that's not true. Jordan Travis, the quarterback last year, I know he had been at Florida State for a little bit, but he came from Louisville. Louisville, Sean McDonough says. Clemson, Sean McDonough exclaims. Dabo! I'm not salty about this at all. No. But they go into this game, and if Clemson loses in Tallahassee, this is a very bad loss. I don't think they're going to lose this game. I think they're going to win by 3 touchdowns. Somewhere in there. But everybody is talking about, is Clemson a real playoff team? Now, you know my approach. My approach is prove it to me. For some of you, you're like, Brian, you're just negative. Let me tell you why I have a new approach. Because for years, here we go again, my nose is itching. Good grief. For years, I used to cuddle up to the TV, and every time Clemson was mentioned by major media, I was just like, they're talking about my team. Thank you. Every time Athline had them rated higher than number 25, I was excited. Every time a talking head on the flagship station of Clemson football said that Clemson was really improving because they've been at the practices and they should know, I used to get my hopes up. And then for many, many years, I ended up with egg on my face. And I had to stop one day and ask myself, why am I participating in the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome? And so I had to step back and take a good, realistic, I know that's a very different word when it comes to being a fanatic, a fan of a team. And that's why it changed me, because I got sick and tired of being a doofus. I got sick and tired of stepping back and having to wipe said egg off my face. So that's my approach in this. Let's talk about the keys to Clemson going beyond just beating good teams and actually getting to a playoff team and being a real playoff team. Let me define a real playoff team. The playoff has been tripled in size from 4 to 12. In a few years, it'll be 14 teams. If you win your conference, you're going to get an automatic bye, if I remember that correctly. So I want to lay this out extremely clear, and I want it to be extremely understandable. Clemson can win their conference and not be a real playoff team. Why? The conference is terrible. Everybody is losing their mind over Cam Ward at Miami, and they should. The guy's incredible. Miami has a lot to prove. Who has Miami played, by the way? Who have they played? And Miami can turn around and say that to Clemson. We'll get to that in just a second. The very last thing us Clemson fans need or want is for Clemson to go to the playoffs and get TCU'd. TCU'd? Brian, what do you mean by that? Get into the national championship and lose 65-7. Get into the playoff and get beat by 40 points. Get into the first or second round of the playoff and lose by 30. Because that's going to set up the mindset that every time Clemson plays a team with a pulse that's actually good, they don't even have to be great. They're good, and they have good coaches, they lose. Now, Clemson can run up points against Appalachian State and NC State. They can do it. They can do it against the Nerds of Stanford. They can do it against the artists formerly known as Florida State. Great. But Georgia? Ooh. Brian, we got to focus on the future. You cannot improve the future unless you learn from the past. Thank you very much. When Clemson played Tennessee a couple of years ago, yeah, it's a different coordinator. Lost. Last year played a good Florida State team. Lost. Well, it was overtime. They lost. Took a trip to Notre Dame a few years ago. Got hammered. Even those last few playoff appearances, the end result was getting hammered with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Folks, there's a problem. So here's the key. I'm going to start giving the keys here at the 7-minute and 20-second portion of this video. First key, write down the Georgia score and have it visible to all players. Now, for some of you, you would say, don't do that. You would say that would bring down their spirit. No, you need to keep it in front of these players, and most of all the coaches, that just 5 weeks ago, you got beat by 31 points to the last good team you played. By the last team you played. Last good team you played. I butchered that. Hey, I even pick on myself, y'all. You can't get away from that. The only way that you can shed that is by winning out, and then when you play the next team with a pulse, a Georgia, a Texas, an Alabama, even if you lose, they walk away going, holy crap, they got better. That was a close game. That wasn't supposed to happen. Look, I'm not advocating for losses. But wouldn't you feel better about a close loss to Georgia versus the 31-point loss? The correct answer is yes. Because you can say it was anyone's game. So the first key is you need to keep that game in front of these players and say that did happen and it happened this season. How bad do you want that to never happen again? What are you willing to do in the film room, in your private practice sessions, your group weightlifting sessions? One more rep than what you normally give. 2 more reps than what you normally give. Coaches, you're paid a lot of money to coach a game. No, I don't feel sorry for you when you receive criticism. No one should threaten you. No one should talk bad about your wife or your kids. No one should be uncivil. But no, I don't feel bad for you being paid ungodly money to coach a flipping game. Sorry, you're a big boy. You can take it. You need to either be the expert that you are, or you need to continue to prove that you're not. That you're only good at beating bad football teams with 4- and 5-star talent. And that 34-3 loss needs to be in front of you more than it does the players. Use that as motivation to not only win out the rest of this season, but to say hell will absolutely hold ice capades down there in the next Winter Olympics before you let a big team beat you like the redheaded stepchild that Georgia did beat you. In the second half, I know it was the second half. I know the first half. I get it. Folks, there's 4 quarters in football. 2 was impressive by Clemson, especially their defense. The second half, they sent the blind kids of Alabama out there. That's what it looked like. Kentucky and Alabama showed us how to play Georgia. Kentucky. Next, don't read your own press. Right now, people in the Clemson community are so happy to see the offensive explosion. I'm happy to see the offensive explosion. In the past 3 games, we've put up at least 40 points on our opponent. And the points that we've given up defensively, especially the Appalachian State and NC State games, they were given up by second, third, and fourth string players. The cheerleaders played. I've joked that Graham Neff, the Clemson athletic director, I think he suited up, got a few plays in there. That's when we gave up a few points. It's on Graham. He shouldn't have done that. Should have taken off that navy blue blazer. Stop folding his hands like a Wesleyan pastor. Come out there and played harder. You got to bring it, Neff. I'm excited to see the explosiveness. I'm excited to see that Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore are getting into things. And let me give you a little stat here. These numbers are not going to be exact, but you can go Google them. Everybody's talking about the 17-year-old at Alabama who absolutely gave Georgia a run for their money. He's the one who ended up catching the game-winning touchdown and just juking everybody out of their drawers. Ryan Williams, he's the wide receiver who did that. Kid's unbelievable. He's incredible. He has this is off the top of my head, he has 16 receptions for 430 yards, something like that, 6 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, the freshman wide receiver, sensation up at Ohio State. This guy, unbelievable numbers. Now, they really haven't played anybody. You can look at Georgia and say, well, or not Georgia, you can look at Alabama and say, they really haven't played anybody until they played Georgia, but Ryan Williams showed up for that game. So you have that one. He has that over the next, these next 2 guys I'm talking about. But if you look at Jeremiah Smith, his numbers, he has 340 yards receiving off of 19 receptions, somewhere in there. It's not exact. Bryant Wesco, who barely played against Georgia, he has 7 receptions for 230 yards, 240 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 7 receptions. Now think about those numbers, y'all. Those are incredible numbers. We have to continue to get the ball into guys' hands, no matter if they're 14 years old or if they're in their 9th year of college football. We have to. Clemson has to continue, and this goes back to what I was saying. I was transitioning there, and I just want to make the point about Bryant Wesco. Clemson has to continue to improve offensively, namely the offensive line. The offensive line is getting better. The more time you marinate with Matt Luke, you're going to get better. It's said in business, it's said in sports, it's said in music, it's said in so many categories of life. If you really want to be good, get around someone who's not only better than you, get around someone who is an expert. Matt Luke is loved by many. Georgia fans will visit my channel. They'll talk trash about Clemson and say stuff like, Dabo's a slime ball. Clemson couldn't win anything if they were in the SEC. The Tiger Rag sounds like it was written by a bunch of drunk church ladies who was getting saucy. Dun, 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 dun. Good job, Edna. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, keep your orthopedics on, Edna. Bum, 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 bum. But Matt Luke can coach. When you're around an expert like that, it rubs off on you. You'll learn things when you don't even want to learn things. The offensive line is getting better, but they have not reached the summit. They have to continue to get better. In turn, that's going to lead to Cade. Cade has to continue to be comfortable And that starts with the offensive line. Moving forward to the wide receivers, as I said, if Bryant Wesco is 14 years old, but he's burning everybody, put him out there. If you want to talk about loyalty to players who's been there longer, you have to be loyal to the team as a whole versus one individual. Put the best players on the field. And if they only know, those younger players only know a few of the plays, and they're only getting used to that, call those plays. Sparingly, but call them with them on the field, and you'll move the ball. Remember, the South Carolina Gamecocks went to Athens, Georgia. I believe it was 2019. And their third-string quarterback knew only 6 plays, beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Folks, if you do it, and you do it well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Get the ball to the playmakers, no matter who they are. Let's talk about coaching here. Coaching has to grow. Next key is coaching has to grow. An acceptable excuse in the Clemson community, and it sickens me because it's a loser mentality, is this is being overly used. That, well, the coaches just really didn't feel comfortable against this team calling those plays. They just didn't know how it'd pan out, so we lost by 30. And a lot of you are okay with that. I get the strategy. I know you have to call the plays that players are comfortable with, plays that players can run and they understand. But Cade is in his second season with Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley has some explosive wide receivers, some talented wide receivers there. I just talked about a true freshman that's tearing it up. He has a deep tight end room. The offensive line is getting better. He has Phil Maffa last time I checked. Folks, this excuse does not hold water. It doesn't. You're regurgitating some talking point from a coach call-in show or text-in show, and you're accepting it. I'm sorry, I don't. The Idaho Vandals went to Eugene, Oregon, and almost beat them in game 1. They were throwing the kitchen sink at Oregon because they didn't want to get beat by 80 points. But we in Clemson, South Carolina, has accepted this bunch of trash and garbage excuses from guys who are being paid. And yes, I will continue to bring that up because it does matter. If they are not experts, stop paying them like experts. If every neurosurgeon who goes in and noodles around in someone's head, the guy comes out mentally handicapped, you need to revoke his license, you need to keep him away from patients, and you need to take away the title of neurosurgeon. Because all he is a nerd with a knife noodling around in your head. He's not an expert. We have to stop buying this. And the coaches have to, especially on the offensive side of the football, top to bottom, has to call plays that make sense, that's competitive, that is creative, and puts their team in the best position to win football games. 2 years ago, South Carolina came into Clemson, hadn't beat Clemson in forever. Clemson stopped running the football. I know what your rebuttal is. Well, Brian, that was Brandon Streeter calling plays. How many times since Garrett Riley has joined the Clemson football staff has it looked like, maybe not Streeter, but it doesn't look logical at times? But once again, post-game interviews, a lot of you will buy it. You're like, well, he explained what happened. Folks, I can explain to you that I didn't know someone walked behind my car and I backed over them and ran over them and killed them. I explained it. It still doesn't mean they didn't die. They're dead. Good grief. Clemson's coaching has to grow. It has to grow. if you don't want to get TCU'd and you want to be a real playoff team, and you really want to get away from these past 3 seasons, especially last year, and you want to stop losing by 31 points to a team that used to you could go toe-to-toe with and beat them. The key is the coaching has to grow, namely on the offensive side of the football. Now, there's other things that I could talk about here, but I'm going to finish with this one. I'm going to finish with this one. The key to Clemson being a real playoff team, not only this season, but next season, lies on us fans. It does. It really, really does. I am challenging those who will listen to me to be civil. I know it's football. I know you're like, Brian, what are you asking? You're going to see where I'm going with this. But it's a good segue off of what I was just talking about. Us Clemson fans needs to hold the coaching staff as a whole accountable in a civil way. Now, let me tell you what you don't need to do. You don't need to say anything bad about their wife or their kids. You don't need to interrupt them while they're eating out in public. You don't need to call them terrible names and everything. But I'm also going to throw out another side of it. You don't need to feel bad when they make a dumb decision. Like dumb. The local high school coach would go, I wouldn't have done that. I know coaching's hard, but I would have never done that. You don't need to let them by with that. You need to blow up. No, I'm talking about figuratively, not actually. You need to, let me retract that statement and be more specific. On the forums where they will hear about it, you need to let them know you're not an idiot. You're not dumb. On the call-in show, that's now a text-in show, and that's very common. You need to be texting in. Can you imagine if 50,000 texts came in asking basically the same question? Are you guys really experts? Are you guys living off the collateral that you built during that incredible run over a 6-year period, 2 national championships? And now you're cashing big fat checks while the rest of us are out here just trying to get by, but you want to make us feel bad that you're laxing now, or maybe there's some bad hires within the Clemson football team. We're not going to keep feeling bad about this. We're not going to continue to be made feel like we're bad people. If we look at you and say, if I did the same thing on my job that you're doing on your job, I would have been gone a long time ago, no matter how well I done. You're a big boy. You're big boys. You're paid a lot of money. It does matter to coach a flipping game. And if you want to impact young men, why is it's only young men who can run a 4.340, bench 400 pounds, and squat 600? Can you tell me that? I think we know why. It's on us fans. It is on us fans that you get to the administration in a civil, peaceful way and not let them just by with giving you some type of good old politician's response. Again, be civil, be peaceful, but us Clemson fans, we need to stop being manipulated because we are being manipulated big time. That's the keys to Clemson being a real playoff team. That's the key. It does come back to us. It comes back to you who clears your schedule to watch the football games. It comes back to you, sir, who's been donating to IPTAY for many years. And now they're asking you to separately, while simultaneously giving to IPTAY, give to a collective, give to NIL. It comes back to you, ma'am, whose family inherited those tickets on the 35-yard line, and you've got a great view, but it's expensive. It's on you, ma'am. It's on you. Remember, all they're basically asking you to do, folks, write a check, show up, cheer, and other than cheering, keep your mouth shut. No, that's not how you're going to get back to a real playoff team. I'm sorry, folks. You're not going to do it that way. It's on us. I want to get to the comment section. I'm going to make this really, really, really quick. It's KJ5. Good to see you. What's good, my guy? Key for us to be dominant. This is our run defense and eyes. We have very bad eyes when it comes to it. This past weekend, I'm telling you, Stanford's, if they keep this current coaching staff and they continue to bring in players they can fit into their system, because it's hard to recruit at Stanford. I mean, it's Ivy League West, right? They're going to be a better football team in the next coming years. But you're right. They took advantage of us. They exposed some stuff. That's a good observation. I'm starting to believe, but I want to remain cautiously optimistic. Mac Lambert, yes, it's okay to enjoy what's going on, but you're 100% right. SC Rocket BR1. Good morning, fellas. Good to see you, my friend. I'm a Syracuse fan for life. I lived there most of my life, but I follow you in Clemson. I think by playoff time, Clemson has a team that can compete. They will get better every game, in my opinion. Mike, I'm glad you're here. I hope so. Scott Kelly, 56-17. Clemson destroys FSU. Wesco reminds me of Sammy Watkins. The guy's extremely talented. J-Row, 17. Will Cade come back next year? You think at Brian? I don't think he's NFL ready. No, he's not NFL ready. Best thing he can do, especially if his offensive line can be solid for next year, he should come back, milk the cow that is Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, and any other players that he'll have at his disposal. Hopefully he'll be in a third-year system with Garrett Riley, unless the Wilkes comes off with Garrett Riley, or Garrett Riley is hired as a head coach somewhere that he would want to go. Work with him for a third year and increase that draft stock. Good questions, folks. Leave your comments below. What do you think the key is to being a real playoff team at Clemson? I know you got to keep winning, blah, 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 blah. But you can win in this schedule, get to the college football playoff, and get the logo ripped off your helmet if you really haven't improved. What are the keys? Leave it below. I hope you'll subscribe. Remember, subscribing is free. This channel is blowing up, y'all. I've had people reaching out to me going, man, your channel is just taken off in the past month. I mean, it's just crazy. It's unbelievable. And that's because of y'all. Thank you so much. I hope you will subscribe. Also, if you want to join on a monthly basis, a lot of you have been doing that because you're like, holy crap, it's only $3 or $5. Yeah, $3 or $5, you choose. The join button's below the video, unless, my hand looked really big there, unless you're on an iPhone, you may not see the join button, but it may be under something called subscribed. I don't know. YouTube changes things, but it's $3 or $5. I've had a lot of people, Parker Henderson, Grafnar, Huffer Billy Paul, Big John Sett, and a bunch of them, Chase Henderson, go, man, we don't even notice it coming out of the bank account. It's just so little, but we want to support the channel. Thank you so much. Also, I am giving away this light, my friend over at the Sawmill Shop, Eric, he created this light. Little bulb goes in here, you plug it up. It's a little Clemson football helmet light. I'm going to give that away soon. So I'm trying to figure out what the giveaway is going to be. I may just randomly pull someone from a comment section and say, it's yours, and send me your address. Folks, you take care of yourself. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are safe. You have your power back. For everyone who is still in this devastation, I'm not just saying this, I mean this. I'm actually praying for you. You take care of yourself. Y'all be good. And as always, go Tigers.